Hi, my name is Aaron, and this is Old TV Cinema. Hollywood has always had a short memory and an even shorter fuse. One day you were the most beloved face on a hit sitcom, and the next you were eating cold leftovers, wondering why your agent stopped returning calls. Today we are counting down 14 famous sitcom actors who walked away from, got fired from, or simply fell out with their hit shows. And paid a brutal price for it. Some of them never truly recovered, and honestly, a few of these stories kept me up at night. Number 14, Mclean Stevenson. If there is one story on this entire list that I personally think is the most underrated cautionary tale in television history, it is this one right here. Mclean Stevenson played Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake on MASH, one of the most critically acclaimed dramas and comedies to ever hit network television. The show premiered in 1972 and became required viewing for a generation of Americans. Stevenson was beloved, genuinely beloved. The kind of warm, bumbling, lovable commanding officer you immediately wanted to have a beer with. And then he threw it all away. In 1975, Stevenson decided he was too big for MASH. He wanted to be the star. He wanted his own show. He told CBS he was leaving and fully expected the network to roll out a red carpet for him the moment he walked out the door. They did not roll out a red carpet. The producers of MASH, in a move that was simultaneously ruthless and brilliant, killed off Henry Blake in a gut punch of a finale that left the entire country stunned. His plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. No survivors. Audiences wept. And just like that, Stevenson had been erased from the hottest show on television in the most permanent way imaginable. The solo career he bet everything on? A string of forgettable variety shows and sitcoms that came and went so fast, they barely registered a pulse. The Mclean Stevenson Show in 1976. Hello, Larry in 1979. Condo in 1983. Each one canceled faster than the last. His MASH co-stars went on to enormous careers. Alan Alda became a legend. Stevenson became a trivia question. He reportedly admitted later in life that leaving MASH was the single biggest mistake of his career. You think? Number 13, Wayne Rogers, MAS. Here is a fun fact. The same show claimed two careers. 1 year before Stevenson's exit, Wayne Rogers, who played the lovable rogue trapper John McIntyre, also walked away from MASH after season 3. His reasons were slightly different. Rogers had grown increasingly frustrated with what he felt was the show's imbalance, specifically that Alan Alda's Hawkeye Pierce was getting the lion's share of storylines and screen time. Rogers had a point. Alda was the creative engine driving the whole machine. But sometimes being right does not mean you are making the right move. Rogers left. Mike Farrell came in as BJ Honeycutt and barely missed a beat. The show went on to run for 11 seasons, win armfuls of Emmy Awards, and deliver one of the most watched series finales in television history. Meanwhile, Rogers built a decent second act in business and finance, which honestly takes a certain kind of discipline. But his acting career, the one that was supposed to flourish after leaving, largely stalled out after a handful of TV movies and guest spots that nobody remembers today. Two men, same show, same mistake, same result. MASH apparently had a policy about people who underestimated it. Number 12, Jeff Conaway. Taxi was one of those rare shows where every single cast member seemed to be operating at the absolute top of their game. Judd Hirsch, Danny DeVito, Andy Kaufman, Tony Danza. The ensemble was electric. And in the middle of it all was Jeff Conaway, playing Bobby Wheeler, the struggling actor moonlighting as a New York cab driver. Conaway had just come off Grease in 1978, which made him a legitimate movie star. He was good-looking, charming, and had real comedic timing. He had every reason to believe Taxi was simply a stepping stone to something bigger. The problem was not his talent. The problem was a battle with substance abuse that had already quietly begun to affect his work on set. By season 4, his reliability had become an issue, and the producers made the difficult decision to write Bobby out of the show. No dramatic farewell, no big send-off, just gone. What followed was a long, painful struggle that would play out publicly over the following decades. The film roles dried up. Guest appearances became sporadic. Conaway was extraordinarily candid in later years about the demons he was fighting, appearing on Celebrity Rehab in 2008 in what became one of the most emotionally raw television moments of that era. He passed away in 2011 at the age of 60. The story of Jeff Conaway is not really about blacklisting in the traditional sense. It is about a talent that got derailed by forces bigger than any casting director, and a Hollywood system that was never particularly good at catching people when they fell. Number 11. John Amos. Good Times. I went down such a deep rabbit hole researching this one that my wife had to physically take my laptop away from me at midnight. And I completely understand why she did, because the story of John Amos in Good Times is the kind of thing that makes you want to flip a table. Good Times premiered in 1974 and was groundbreaking television. Amos played James Evans Sr., the hard-working patriarch of a Black Chicago family, navigating poverty, hope, and dignity with humor and grace. He was the emotional backbone of the entire show. Without him, there was no show. But Amos had a conscience. As the series leaned increasingly into J.J. Walker's catchphrase-driven, broadly comedic character, Amos grew vocal about what he saw as a troubling shift away from authentic storytelling. He felt the show was undermining the very community it was supposed to represent. The producers did not appreciate the feedback. In 1976, they killed off James Evans Sr. in an off-screen car accident, one of the most shocking character eliminations in sitcom history. And just like that, the moral center of Good Times was gone. Hollywood whispers followed Amos for years. He found work, solid work in Roots and Coming to America, but the consistent leading man platform he deserved remained frustratingly out of reach. Good Times, meanwhile, limped to its conclusion without the man who had made it matter. Some fires cannot be relit once you kick the logs apart. Number 10. Suzanne Somers, Three's Company. Three's Company ran from 1977 to 1984 and was one of the most watched sitcoms in America. Suzanne Somers played Chrissy Snow, the lovably dizzy blonde whose chemistry with John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt made the whole ridiculous premise somehow work beautifully. By season 5, Somers and her husband-manager Alan Hommel decided it was time to renegotiate. She wanted to go from $30,000 per episode to $150,000, putting her on equal footing with Ritter. It was a bold ask. It was also arguably completely fair for the woman who was arguably the show's most recognizable face. The network said no, and when Somers began missing tapings as leverage, they did not blink. They wrote Chrissy to Fresno to care for her sick mother and had Somers literally phone in her lines from a telephone at the edge of the screen. If that is not a network sending a message, I do not know what is. The fallout was devastating in ways that went beyond ratings. Her co-stars felt blindsided and betrayed. Decades of silence followed. It was not until 2003 that she reconciled with Ritter, tragically just before his sudden passing. She and DeWitt did not publicly mend fences until 2012. The roles that should have come after Three's Company largely did not arrive. Instead, Somers rebuilt her brand through fitness and wellness, becoming the Thigh Master Queen of 90s infomercials. Smart reinvention, absolutely, but you cannot help wondering what a proper Hollywood second act might have looked like. Number 9. Valerie Harper. État d'as, Valerie. Valerie Harper might be the only person in the history of American television to get fired from her own sitcom. Let that sit for a moment. Valerie premiered in 1986 with Harper playing Valerie Hogan, the suburban mom at the center of a warm family comedy that also featured a young Jason Bateman. It was familiar territory for Harper after her iconic run as Rhoda on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and its spin-off. She was comfortable, she was funny, she was the reason people tuned in. Then she tried to renegotiate. She wanted a salary increase and a cut of syndication profits. The producers showed her the door and wrote her character off in an off-screen car accident. They brought in Sandy Duncan, renamed the show The Hogan Family, and the whole operation kept running for 4 more seasons, as if Harper had never existed. Harper sued for wrongful termination and eventually won a multi-million-dollar settlement. So financially, she came out ahead. But in terms of the career trajectory she had every right to expect, the momentum never fully returned. Guest spots and TV movies followed, and she remained a beloved figure who fans always rooted for. But the consistent starring platform she deserved was largely gone. There is something particularly ruthless about this one that has always bothered me. You build a show, you give it your name, and then the machine decides it does not need you anymore and keeps going without skipping a beat. Hollywood is not sentimental about its founding members. Number 8. Delta Burke, Designing Women. Designing Women ran from 1986 to 1993 and was one of the sharpest ensemble sitcoms of the entire decade. Delta Burke played Suzanne Sugarbaker, a former beauty queen and self-described steel magnolia who could deliver a devastating one-liner in a fur coat without breaking a sweat. She was magnetic and she knew it. But behind the scenes, things were considerably less polished. Burke clashed repeatedly with show creators Linda Bloodworth Thomason and Harry Thomason over working hours, creative direction, and what she described as a hostile work environment. The tabloids focused almost exclusively on her weight, which was frankly a lazy and unfair reduction of what was clearly a much deeper set of professional grievances. In 1991, she was fired. The tabloid circus that followed was not kind. The industry whispers were not kind. She headlined Delta in 1992, a country-themed sitcom that CBS canceled after one season. She reunited with the Thomasons for Women of the House in 1995, but that also folded after one season. Here is what I find fascinating though. Burke was talented enough to have thrived in a different environment with different creative leadership. Sometimes the blacklisting is not an industry-wide conspiracy. Sometimes it is just the result of burning the specific bridges that held up your particular road. Either way, the career she was building in the late 80s never materialized the way it should have. Number 7. Shelley Long. Cheers. Cheers is one of the greatest sitcoms ever made, full stop. And Shelley Long's Diane Chambers was the sharp, neurotic, endlessly quotable heart of its first 5 seasons. Her will they won't they dynamic with Ted Danson Sam? Malone was the engine that made everything run. So when Long decided to leave after season 5 in 1987, at the absolute peak of the show's cultural dominance, nobody could quite believe it. She wanted to pursue film. She wanted creative range. She wanted more time with her newborn daughter. All completely legitimate reasons. What followed it, though, was a masterclass in how quickly Hollywood can forget you. The box office results were grim. Troop Beverly Hills had its fans, but it was a modest performer at best. Frozen Assets in 1992 was a critical disaster. The big screen career she imagined never arrived. Meanwhile, Cheers brought in Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe and went on to run for 6 more seasons, finishing as one of the most acclaimed series finales in television history. Long returned for that finale in 1993, which was a gracious and bittersweet moment, but watching it, you could feel the weight of the road not taken. She later found steady work on Primetime and in the Brady Bunch films, which found her a whole new generation of fans. But the A-list film career she gambled everything on, it never showed up to collect. Number 6. Lisa Bonet, The Cosby Show. This is the part where, every single time I tell this story, I get goosebumps, and I have told it probably 100 times, because the Lisa Bonet situation is one of the most complicated, layered, and ultimately poignant stories in 90s television. Bonet played Denise Huxtable on The Cosby Show, starting in 1984. She was cool, effortlessly stylish, and brought a loose, unconventional energy to the Huxtable household that made her a genuine standout in an already stellar cast. Audiences adored her. Then she started making choices that the show's star and producer, Bill Cosby, did not approve of. She appeared in the film Angel Heart in 1987 in an explicit and challenging role that was about as far from Denise Huxtable as you could get. Cosby was reportedly furious. She also became pregnant without being married, which conflicted with the image he was carefully cultivating for the show. She was written off The Cosby Show in 1987 and given her own spin-off, A Different World, which she left shortly after due to her pregnancy. By 1991, she was effectively gone from the Cosby universe entirely. And in the years that followed, the industry's relationship with her remained complicated and inconsistent. Her personal life became tabloid fodder. Roles came sporadically. It took decades and a completely different cultural moment for Bonet to be fully recognized as the original, the trendsetter, the one whose authentic self Hollywood was never quite ready for. Everything that has emerged about Bill Cosby since 2014 reframes every single one of these professional conflicts in a way that is deeply uncomfortable. And I think it is worth sitting with that discomfort rather than looking away from it. Number 5. Shannen Doherty, Beverly Hills 9021. 0. And Charmed. Some people on this list left on their own terms. Shannen Doherty was escorted out, twice. Beverly Hills 90210. Premiered in 1990 and quickly became the defining teen drama of its era. Doherty played Brenda Walsh, the moral compass and occasional dramatic lightning rod, at the center of the show's best early storylines. She was compelling. She was fearless on screen. And she was, by most accounts, absolutely exhausting off it. Reports of on-set clashes with cast members, particularly Jenny Garth, were relentless. The tabloids feasted. The producers eventually had enough, and Doherty was written out after season 4 in 1994. Brenda went to London. Audiences barely got a goodbye. The industry response was swift and merciless. She spent several years in a career wilderness, picking up smaller roles and appearing in films that did not exactly set the world on fire. Then came Charmed in 1998, which felt like a genuine second act. She was compelling as Prue Halliwell, and the show found an audience quickly. And then the exact same story played out again. Clashes with co-star Alyssa Milano became so severe that the producers were forced to choose. They chose Milano. Doherty was killed off at the end of season 3 in 2001 and replaced by Rose McGowan, 2 franchise exits, 2 reputation hits. And yet Doherty kept working, kept fighting. And in her final years, as she battled cancer publicly and honestly, she became one of the most genuinely beloved figures from that entire television era. Sometimes the legacy corrects itself. It just takes longer than it should. Number 4. David Caruso, NYPD Blue. NYPD Blue premiered in 1993 and immediately changed what network drama was allowed to look like. It was raw, gritty, and unapologetically adult in a way that made network television executives deeply nervous. David Caruso played Detective John Kelly, and from the first episode, he was the show's undeniable anchor. He earned a Golden Globe nomination for the role and the kind of critical attention most actors spend entire careers chasing. Then he got the big head, and I say that with the full awareness that it is possible to have the big head and still be right about your own talent. Caruso reportedly demanded a massive salary increase, a cut of syndication profits, and perks that read like a fever dream. The network balked. Caruso walked after season 1. He was absolutely 100% convinced he was about to become a movie star. And I want to be fair here. The confidence was not entirely delusional. He was magnetic on screen, and he had the momentum. The problem was the execution. Kiss of Death in 1995 barely landed. Jade, also in 1995, was dismissed by critics with the kind of reviews that make publicists consider new careers. Meanwhile, NYPD Blue kept running, Jimmy Smits stepped in, and many fans argued the show actually got better. Caruso eventually found his footing again with CSI Miami, which became a massive hit and gave him one of the most aggressively quotable screen personas of the 2000s. The sunglasses, the pauses, the one-liners, he turned it into performance art. But the movie stardom he sacrificed NYPD Blue to chase never materialized. Number 3. Topher Grace. That 70s Show. That 70s Show ran from 1998 to 2006 and was funnier and sharper than it probably had any right to be. Topher Grace played Eric Foreman, the sarcastic, scrawny everyman whose suburban Wisconsin basement served as the show's spiritual home. He was the glue. Not necessarily the flashiest character, but the one who held the whole structure together. By the end of season 7, Grace had decided he was ready for the movies. His logic was not unreasonable. His co-star Ashton Kutcher had already crossed over to film successfully. Mila Kunis was building a film career. The timing felt right. The producers wrote Eric off with a storyline about him moving to Africa, which remains one of the more baffling character exits in the history of a show that had generally been pretty grounded. Season 8 introduced Randy Pearson, played by Josh Myers, as a replacement. Audiences never accepted him. By the finale in 2006, Eric returned for a brief uncredited cameo in his own show. His own show. The film career Grace built after leaving was respectable, with notable roles in Spider-Man 3 and Interstellar. But it never produced the consistent leading man stardom he seemed destined for. He has found a solid second gear on television in more recent years. But the seamless transition from TV star to film star that he envisioned in 2005 did not unfold the way the blueprint suggested. Number 2. Cybill Shepherd. Ins and Adol Cybill Shepherd had already survived one industry cold shoulder by the time her own sitcom came along. After a promising early career in the 1970s, including a memorable television run on moonlighting opposite Bruce Willis, Shepherd launched her own sitcom, Cybill, in 1995. The show was a genuine hit. Shepherd played a struggling middle-aged actress navigating 2 ex-husbands, a best friend played brilliantly by Christine Baranski, and the general indignities of being a woman in Hollywood. It was funny, it was sharp, and it ran for 4 seasons on CBS. And then the same pattern that had followed Shepherd her entire career reasserted itself. Reports of impossible demands, clashes with network executives, and creative battles with producers became a regular feature of the tabloid coverage. The industry whispers returned. CBS canceled the show in 1998, and the official explanation pointed to declining ratings. But the behind-the-scenes narrative was considerably more complicated. The fallout was real. Consistent starring roles on major television properties did not come. She continued working in guest spots, in TV movies and projects that showcased her talent in flashes, but the platform she had built with Cybill never fully reconstituted itself. Baranski, her co-star, went on to an extraordinary career in The Good Wife, The Big Bang Theory, and beyond, collecting award nominations and critical praise for decades. Watching that trajectory from the outside, you suspect the material was always there. What was missing was the runway. Number 1. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne. I have been sitting on this story for 6 months because I wanted to make sure I got every detail right before sharing it with you. Not because the facts are obscure. They are not. But because this particular story is more complicated than the headline version most people know. And the headline version is already pretty wild. Roseanne premiered in 1988 and was immediately one of the most important sitcoms on American television. It depicted a working-class family with a specificity and honesty that had never quite been seen on network TV before. Roseanne Barr was not playing a character. She was channeling something real, something raw, and audiences recognized it instantly. For 9 seasons, Roseanne was a cultural institution. Barr fought constantly and publicly for creative control, clashing with producers, network executives, and co-stars with a consistency that became its own kind of legend. She fired writers, rewrote scripts, demanded final approval over storylines. The set was turbulent. The show was magnificent anyway, largely because of her rather than in spite of her. By the final season in 1997, the show had taken one of the most bizarre creative swings in sitcom history, with Barr essentially rewriting the entire preceding season as fiction within the show's universe. The Connor family had won the lottery. Roseanne had turned it all into a novel. The real Dan had died of a heart attack. It was surreal, polarizing, and utterly unforgettable. The show ended on her terms, which is more than most people on this list can say. But the years that followed were difficult. The reputation she had built as a creative force and an industry disruptor calcified into something harder to navigate. Film roles did not materialize. Television was skittish. She spent years in the wilderness. The 2018 revival initially seemed like a redemption story, and its ratings were extraordinary. Then a single tweet ended everything in hours, and Barr found herself at the center of a firestorm that permanently altered her public legacy. I am not here to litigate all of that, but when you trace the full arc of Roseanne Barr's career, from her 1988 debut to the cancellation of the revival, what you see is a portrait of someone whose talent and whose temperament were always in direct competition with each other. For 9 seasons, the talent won. The rest of the story is considerably more complicated. Number 1 on this list, not because her situation is the saddest or the most unjust, but because the scale of it, the height she reached, and the distance she fell, makes it the most dramatic illustration of everything this list is about. And that is our countdown. 14 actors, 14 stories, and a whole lot of burnt bridges, blown opportunities, and Hollywood grudges that lasted longer than some of the shows themselves. What gets me about this list, every time I sit with it, is that most of these people were not simply difficult or reckless. Most of them were fighting for something: fair pay, creative respect, authentic storytelling, a real second act. The industry punished some of them for being wrong, and it punished others for being right. Hollywood does not particularly care about the distinction. Some of them bounced back. Some of them never did. A few of them found that the career they built in the wreckage was more interesting than the one they were chasing to begin with. If you have a favorite on this list, or if we miss someone whose story you think deserves a spotlight, drop it in the comments below. There are more than 14 people in this world who made one big swing in the television industry and heard nothing but silence on the way down. And if you want more deep dives into the television that shaped a generation, the hits, the disasters, the actors, and the stories that nobody talks about anymore, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I am Aaron, this is Old TV Cinema. And we will see you next time.